us to welcome her. You know, the last time she was not here, she was unavoidably absent. So when I told her we're excited to have her again here today, I'd like us to welcome the amiable Silola Aneke, the coordinator of the C.A.D.E.T Academy and the chairperson of the Dewdrops Centre. Please let's welcome her. And you're not welcoming you well. It's good to have you. So she will just be giving an opening remarks to us and setting us rolling in this meeting. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. I do like seeing if you're happy and you're happy hands. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lola Aneke, and I'm glad to be part of this event this evening. The last one I was following closely online. I couldn't wait to watch the video. I couldn't wait to see the pictures, and I got good feedback. It was a huge success. Everybody was ready to share something. I'm sure we're more than ready again today. So thank you so much. Today we've decided to, I want to thank everybody present. I really do appreciate you all for those that came on time. Thank you, those on the way. Thank you in advance. Our facilitators, the speakers, we're very, very grateful. It was a short notice, but you still turned up. I'm very grateful. And I'm very sure we'll have a swell time. So basically the theme of today's gathering, the theme of, I'm sounding like a pastor. The theme of today's forum, the theme of today's discussion, because we're going to try and make it very, very interactive, and I want to caution here, please feel free to talk on time, because the last time we got feedback, some people wanted to talk and we ignored them because we wanted to go home. So please make up your mind on time if you want to ask questions. Make up your mind on time if you're going to speak or talk about anything. Please make up your mind on time, so we can wrap it up quick and leave. We're going to talk about, we're going to be dwelling more on neurodiversity and inclusion. Neurodiversity and inclusion. And as a teacher, as a special educator, I'm just trying to break it down and let you guys have a feel so that you know the direction of what we're talking about. Neurodiversity simply means neuro means brain, and then diversity means difference. So we're going to be dwelling on the difference in these people and try to see how we can appreciate them and see how we can accommodate them and see how we can try and make things a lot better and easier for them. And then inclusion simply means include how to be accepted. I was giving an example. I said most people say they practice inclusion. So for example, if this venue says they practice inclusion for people living with special needs, and we cannot say anything like a ramp or something that would help for them to move freely, then they're not practicing inclusion. So it goes for every sphere of life, the medical sector, academic sector, health sector. We have to make everything inclusive for people living with special needs. So we're looking at that direction today, and I'm very optimistic that it's going to go quite well. Thank you, everybody, once again.
Thank you, Mrs. Lamar. It's good to have you around. So she just set the ball rolling for us. We'll take a couple of remarks. We have a few remarks, like we always do, so that we could stimulate the discussions and, get talking points in the direction for which this event is being orchestrated. So to have the first remarks today, we are honored and privileged to have Air Vice Marshal Femi Barigo, is an officer of the Federal Republic. He's the founder and CEO of the NOLA, a cerebral palsy initiative, and he's one of Nigeria's foremost disability advocates. He's here today to set the discussions rolling. I'd like us with a family support, a C.A.D.E.T family support network ovation to welcome him this afternoon.
But I just thank God for this opportunity to be here with you, and I thank the Anekes for facilitating my being here all the way from Lagos, and to share a little bit of my experience. I normally would like to talk for an hour, 2 hours. My wife would say I'll talk forever. I'm very passionate about this issue of disability, But just to start off, I want you to know that I have a son who is 20 years old. He was born with cerebral palsy, and he's fully dependent. What it means is that he does nothing for himself. He still wears diapers. He had a bad case of scoliosis, and at the age of 13, 14, we were able to take him to India and do a major surgery on his back, where he now has 3 titanium rods and about 38 screws in the spinal cord. At the end of that surgery, which made him a little bit better, he suddenly stopped drinking or taking liquids. And that became a problem for a child who takes medication almost every 2 hours a day. And so we had to have a stomach tube inserted, a peg, which is still going up to today since 2011. On the good note, I do all the changing of the tubes myself, so it saves me a lot of money. The first time I tried to do it, it cost also over 30,000 naira to get a professor from Luth to do that surgery in a private hospital that also charged their own money. So the next time I went to India, I learned how to do it. So I do it every 2.5 months now myself, so I'm an expert in that area too. I'm an expert in all areas, which has helped us save money in managing my son. But it has also helped me to learn about my son. At the age of 16, because my wife took care of him for 12 years when I was working, at the age of 16, I decided, based on an advice from a doctor friend of mine, to start something, an NGO. And I felt, you see, if you have been observing the environment, you will see that certain things are not going well. Yes, we have homes, we have schools, but what do? They try to provide care. They try to do something for the children. Even you, if you have a child with special needs, what happens? People always ask you, how is the child? Nobody asks you, how are you? And I tell people, you see, if I'm fine, my child is fine, because I love my child. You know, so you should be asking about me, you know. And that's what got us to say, look, if we are going to do the same thing with everybody that is at home or school, then we will miss out certain things. We need to do something different. So Benola works on the aspect of advocacy, letting people to understand the issues around disability, cerebral palsy specifically, but in the process of doing that, I also have learned a lot. I've learned that it's all, you see, disabilities are all around. And so I talk about something which I call a lemonade story. That is lemon to lemonade. We all know citrus fruits, lemon, orange, tangerine. If somebody were to give you, let's say 3 of you now, and he puts 1 orange, 1 tangerine, and 1 lemon, and he says, take your pick, I guess the first person will take an orange, because it's big, and we know it's sweet, and so on. The next person will take the tangerine. It's even sweeter, but small. The last person will have no choice but to take that lemonade. And if he cuts it open, it doesn't taste nice. But assuming you've been told that each of those fruits can be of tremendous benefit to you, if you just, and because of that, you refuse to throw it away. You now begin to do research. You ask friend A, B, come, let's see this thing is good, but it doesn't taste nice. Now, you're likely to meet somebody who will say, well, have you tried squeezing it into a cup? And then, yeah, I squeezed it, but it's still until they add some water. Now you add water, and what you have, okay, it's okay, but it's not too good. And you say, why don't you add something? You add salt, it's terrible. And you add sugar, and beautiful, it tastes nice. And then someone says, because of that, you now realize if you have a business sense, if you are an Igbo friend of mine, you see potential business here. I could make this lemonade and sell to people, right? So, particularly this last season of fasting, you put some ice, you put it around, people will buy, and you will see that you're making money. So you go to the market. Lemonade is cheap. In fact, I'll tell you, my son's nurse is from Benue. She went home just this last week for a wedding. On her way back, she brought a basket of lemon. She said it's in their compound, nobody takes it. But my wife is always using lemon, so she brought it. So now you start selling lemonade. And then if you are even more adventurous. You think, okay, why don't I preserve this thing? So you bottle it, and you have bottled lemonade, which you all see in the shops and so on. And if you're ever more adventurous, you even put color, and you have pink lemonade and a few other things, you know. Now, when I came up with this story a couple of weeks ago when I needed to speak at a forum like this, and I used slides. Unfortunately, we don't have slides here today. And I thought, okay, let me look for some pictures. So I got nice pictures. And ever since I started Benola, what I've insisted on is to use pictures of either Nigerian or black children. You see, you have no shortage of white kids with cerebral palsy, but you have very few. In fact, in 2013 when we started, you couldn't see a Nigerian child's picture with cerebral palsy because nobody was ready to have a child photograph. But I believe that we must show people these things. So I went online and I found a lot of pictures of white kids who had lemonade stands. And I couldn't find, and I insisted there must be one. We sat a whole day and I ran into one girl. Her name is Michaela. I have a picture here. Michaela Ulma, she's a black American girl. This girl had a lemonade stand. So just to tell you what lemon can do. And 2 years ago, one white boy who had a lemonade stand had cerebral palsy. An organization, one company saw him at an exhibition and they just gave him a contract and branded his lemonade, and he started making some money. In fact, he donated $200,000 to the Cerebral Palsy Foundation in his city, so it was all over the news. Now this girl, you can imagine, guess what happened to her? A company found, when I saw that story, a picture, I used it. Later in the day, I went to Linden, and as I was just going through my LinkedIn pages, I saw the same girl's picture. And it was a different story. A company had endorsed her, and she now has lemonade, bottled lemonade, Ulma, Michaela Ulma, and they've given her a contract, they've endorsed her with $11 million. An 11-year-old girl. Okay? Now, this is just an example of what could happen when you take that piece of lemonade and you decide to try and turn it into something else. And why am I saying lemonade? Your child, that special child you have, to most people is a rejected seed or is a condemned seed, but it's a special seed. And God did not give that child to you because he didn't know what to do. I mean, there are millions of people in this world, but he picked you because he thinks you're special. He knows you're special, and he's given you a special thing to take care of. But it's like you want to take diamonds, you want to take gold, you want to take any of these things, you have to polish, you have to dig, you have to get it out, and then bring out the beauty of it. So, in essence, what I'm saying is that that child is a special child. You are a special parent. But you now have to rise up to that level. And if I get religious on you, what you find is that God has a purpose for every creature that is in this world. We just have to find it. If you have not understood that, watch Animal Kingdom. And you'll find that the animal that eats grass doesn't eat meat. But it's the animal that produces the waste that produces the grass. The other one eats meat. And they all just blend with each other that way. And so on. So if you understand that, what you need to do is to figure out how do you take this child, how do you turn this child into that lemonade that is definitely sitting there. Each of us has special potentials hidden, and the way to do that is to understand one thing. Nobody, you see, anybody who has a home or a school that doesn't have a special child is just doing a vocation. And every doctor that takes care of your child is not going to see that child for 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes if you're lucky. You are seeing that child 2-4-7. That means if you put a little effort into it, within a year or two, you become the expert on your child. You become the authority on your child. You're only going to the doctor for expert advice. And one thing my wife, if you see my wife, if you come to my house, we have notebooks full. My son, every day, temperature, name it, from morning till night is recorded. So if you have to go to a doctor, my wife has all the information the doctor needs. In fact, as of now, I don't think we've gone to the hospital for years. Okay? For up to 8, 9, we went almost every day to the hospital. But now, he still has issues, but we have come to understand the issues. He still has crisis, but we have come to understand the crisis. And we have some of the medication at home, and we have the know-how to do some of these things. And it has made life a lot easier for us and everybody else. So basically what I like to say, not to talk for too long, is that we all have to become experts in whatever it is that's wrong with our child. And it means we have to get education. Information is out there, it's online. You just need to read up, you just need to find literature. And the more you read, the more you'll understand. And the more you realize that, you see, I had somebody come all the way to Lagos for the Autism conference with a child with cerebral palsy. And when I asked why, he said, I thought it was cerebral palsy was an arm of autism. Okay? And the child was about 7, 8 years old. So if we read, we will understand what is going on. If we do that, but at the end of the day, he actually, when I asked him, he gained from the Autism conference because he couldn't believe over 500 parents. He said he didn't know that there were so many human beings who had these issues. And that's one of the elements of a forum like this, that we get to see other people, we get to know that we're not alone. And you see, no matter how bad your situation is, somebody has a worse case. And that child, like I said, the more you look at the child, the more you see beauty, the more you see beauty of God. Anybody has a child with cerebral palsy here? If you see anybody with a child with cerebral palsy, they're always smiling. If they're not smiling, they're laughing. If you see all my son's pictures, people always say, that's it, they're always happy. You see, there's nothing, if I can sit at home all day, have somebody bring me my food, have somebody clean me off, you understand? Why would I be happy? Let's be honest. I don't have to deal with traffic. You see, the reason why we feel upset with our children is that we try to put ourselves in their situation. And we say, oh, he has not gone out of his house all day. He doesn't need to. He doesn't know what's happening outside. You are the one who goes out, who knows what you are missing outside. The same thing, sometimes my wife even says, oh, he's always lying down. I said, but stop putting you put yourself in a situation, you will stay different. Okay? Now, to move us out of the situation we're in, when Mrs. Olaya said that we're not an inclusive society. We that are affected, the parents, we're the ones who will have to work to change the system. We're the ones who will have to mobilize support. You see, everybody here can be an advocate. The fact that you have a special child makes you a special, like I said, a special person. You can become an advocate. That is, you talk about it, but you must get knowledge first. Now, if you're shy, you don't want to talk, then you can join somebody else so that you can together begin to work on it. And then you can even start your own home. I've told a lot of women, and I have a few success stories in Lagos now, of women who had to leave their job and who are feeling upset because they couldn't take care of their child. Now, a lot of homes are not really the standard that you want. So I say, why don't you start something? And I've had a few people with children under 5 start daycare. And in 1 year, I saw some of them at the Autism conference. They're bloomed. You see, you just begin to feel, there's a sense of satisfaction when you're doing something. Okay? There's a fear of how do I start? But the first step is that child that you have in your house that God has given you. That's the first step. And once you take on that child, once you take on the mission that follows it, you just begin to move step by step. And I assure you that other people will support you. God will go before you. God will be with you, and He will take you to the next level. And then you will see that this lemon is actually a lemonade. Okay? The only reason why I'm standing here talking to you today is because I decided to grasp that situation. It took me 16 years. It doesn't have to take you that long. You understand? It doesn't have to take you that long. And you know, the landscape is changing. You know, the NAKs are doing such a wonderful job in Abuja. There are 1 or 2 people in Jos, some people in this, and we can have hundreds of thousands. A child with special needs does not have to travel 20, 30 minutes to get to either a school or a daycare. They should be around the corner. And you see, they shouldn't, unless you have the resources and the right caliber of manpower, you shouldn't even have more than 10 to 20 children if you are going to give them the right kind of care. So we need to begin to understand that we're talking about job creation. There's job enterprise, there's potential. If you set up something nice, I'm assuring you that there will be people who come around. So let me just end there and just say that that child in your home is there for a reason. The child has potential. It is up to you to look into that child, look into the child's eyes, and nurture that potential and begin to celebrate it. You see, I don't know, many people here have autistic kids. Yeah? You'll see that if you really look, there are certain things they do well, extremely well. And the minute you start celebrating that thing, then it's no longer an issue about he's not good, but it's like, I have somebody who told me, 7-year-old boy, he loves to read Bible, he loves to pray. I said, can you imagine that? Many people have 20-year-olds who don't even want to read the Bible. Okay, it is that. There are some of them that are good in calculation, there are some of them who are good in numbers, some in music, some in so and so, and stuff like that. So find that thing, nurture them, and all this proteges that we see. You see, there was one professor that said that we're all crazy. Everybody's crazy, you know. It's just by the grace of God, and everybody is disabled. It's just by the grace of God that some of us are able to move around normally and maybe wear glasses. I have mine here, so forget about it, and so on. But if glasses were not fashionable, you can imagine what it would look like for many of us who wear glasses, and that's the same thing with disability. So the minute we go beyond that disability, all we see is beauty, and the beauty of God. That's celebrated. Thank you very much.
I'm Air Vice Marshal Femi Badebo, retired, founder of Benola, a cerebral palsy initiative based in Lagos, and it's an initiative that's set out to raise awareness about cerebral palsy and also change the face of disability management in this country. I was invited here by Lola and her husband because we have been working together online, and virtually every time I come to Lagos in the last 3 years, we've come to realize that for every parent that has a child with a disability, the problems are the same. The problems of insecurity, worry about stigma, about what the future lies ahead, and generally how to cope. And so when I talk to parents, it doesn't matter what the problem is, what the child's problem is. It's the fact that the child is a special child. In the course of doing my work, I've also discovered that we have very little support available to parents of children like this. Yes, we have some few schools, we have a number of homes, but the issue of competence is a factor. The high cost of these institutions is a factor, which can be defended because it's not easy to run them. But then most of the parents we have are indigent. The parents who could really afford these facilities often tend to find alternative sources of management outside this country. So it leaves out a large number of parents that require help.
My name is Kosi Asogwa. I work with Blazing Heart Autism Centre in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. It's been a wonderful experience today, the Inclusion and Neurodiversity Family Support event this evening. It's the first I've attended that C.A.D.E.T Academy Dewdrops has organized, and I really enjoyed it because it's not something we're used to down in South Nigeria. It's difficult for a lot of parents to relate with this, to come around, talk about what they are facing, because most of them live in denial and they're afraid because of the stigmatization. But for today, I love the courage, the enthusiasm of not just parents, but people who are passionate to make a change, people who think that the voices of these ones should be heard.
You know, a lot of times in this part of the world, we underplay the value of information. And I think everything thrives on information. Strength thrives on information, courage thrives on information, and you need those two things for any kind of development or progress to take place. That's the whole essence of this, so that you can be armed with the relevant information, you know, to create change or to create, you know, development in this particular aspect of it. And that's the whole essence. And you know, energy feeds on energy. So as the energy, that's why we had to all come together. We could have said we want to do an online forum, but it's better when we come into a room like this, the energy is being released, and then every one of us is getting one idea or the other. So I'd like us to take notes of things and all of that. And then also we know that people may have questions, comments and suggestions. We don't want to leave it towards the end. So if you have a question, we could provide for you a slip, and so that should, in case we're unable to take it within the confines of time of this meeting, we would just make our time to respond to you, you know, if you properly write down your questions. So you could just signal to our officials, they'll get the question slips to you. And I'm aware you can write more than one question, so as many as you would want to. All right, thank you so much. All right, so for the next remarks we will take is a doctor. We're going to have a series of doctors, you know, speaking to us, you know, because sometimes, you know, the part of the world we belong to, a lot of things, because people don't know anything, they begin to say it was witchcraft or it's the devil, you know. So it's usually very good. You know, yesterday I was in a meeting and we're talking about the bridges. You know how bridges were constructed. I'm sure if you must have heard the story of maybe the Niger bridge or one of those bridges, you heard that they had to do a sacrifice to some of those gods that were in those rivers. But actually it was just simply lack of technology. That was just all. The white people came and they did it. You understand? So its knowledge is very important. So to take us further, we have a doctor who would be taking us. He's seasoned. He's been practicing medicine for 27 years. He's an obs and kind specialist. And then he's also the director of Soteria Afrique Rural Healthcare Initiative, a health promoting and healthcare providing non-governmental organization which he founded in 2012.
Now I want to talk about, where do you find yourself in the value chain? Where? I am an obstetrician, which means I help women with their pregnancy and the delivery. So perhaps I find myself in the value chain of advising women when they are going to get pregnant, taking care of the pregnancy, being careful what medicines to give and what not to give, making sure that delivery takes place well, so that, because some of the cerebral palsy may be caused by mistakes of people like me, or people who do what I do probably don't do it well, you know, that happens at that point. But why do you find you are awesome? Because this is where I find myself. And when the AVA spoke, I see a man who has overcome maybe the anger he would have felt at the beginning, the frustration and the everything, and began to see the good in everything. And that is why the lemonade story came in. Because there is something golden that you have not discovered in maybe your child, whatever he has. There's something yet you are yet to discover. But because we are stakeholders from different backgrounds, I'm asking, where are you in the value chain? Are you the one affected? So are you the main person taking care of somebody? Is it possible you develop special ways better care can be done? Is it possible that you go around and spend your resources like he is doing, encouraging others and say, hey, I've come over this, hey, this thing is great, and this is what I do, and then taking burden from people's hands? You know, what the devil does is to make you think something is a problem when it is not a problem. You know, I used to call it devil's assignment. Devil's assignment. Somebody has one house, he thinks it's not enough. You must have a house in Lagos, you have one in Durban, you must have in London. there is no point you can draw a line and say I'm satisfied. Okay? Somebody has 4 children, 6 children, he wants to have another one. Somebody has one thing or the other, he thinks it's not enough. So the devil's assignment is when you are not able to get satisfaction in what you have until you continue to extend your energy. In the same way, whatever you have, you can bring out the best. If you're a mother with a child that has any form of challenge, can't you be the first person to discover the best way to feed this child? Can't you be the first person to discover the best way to prevent source? Can you be the first person to discover what meals are best? What are the things that will make his test come on? You could. So if you are at that point of the value chain, you can add value to the things that are happening. Or if you know, if you are maybe somebody who is a teacher that can add a little bit to our knowledge so that you can take more care of such people, you can stretch yourself and learn more and be part of it. Are you somebody who probably can only provide information and push it to others? Like the MC was saying, you can push correct information to others and take a burden off their shoulders because of the correct information that you are providing. Where are you? Are you standing somewhere along the value chain, or you are standing and looking? Or you are standing and sympathizing with others? You know, what we think are problems may not be problems at all. And even if they are, you know, we should learn to do something. You know, whenever I do operation and I say, give me this, usually the instruments will bear one white man's name. And I tell myself that you practice for more than a quarter of a century. How comes you have not developed your own instrument? Because there are certain surgeries I think I do it my own way. So how comes you still have not? You are waiting for another person to do an instrument and tell you how to use this instrument. You know? And so please think. How can I add value? If you are running a school and you go abroad and look at all the fine schools, the next question you ask is that, how can I make my own school better? Not how can I make my own school like their school. How can I make my own school better? What can I add to make my own school better? So wherever you are in the value chain, wherever you are, there is something you can add. But let's become a little bit more careful. If he is to write now a book, somebody will pick all those records of vital signs that they have been recording for years and just put it in a computer. And before you know, somebody will bring out a pattern that such people, this is what happens. And then it will enter the textbook, and that's what people will be using forever. Which means he has contributed to the body of knowledge. He has eased, the problem of, a lot of people along the line. So let us allow God to lift us from a point of being sympathetic, from a point of being angry. There are mothers that even when the first diagnosis comes, they reject it. And they tell you. There are others that hide their children in the house for years. Hide. You don't need to do that. You are hiding a champion somewhere. You are hiding something precious. You are hiding what you shouldn't hide. So whenever you find yourself in the value chain, try to make sure that you do something that will add to what humanity needs. Do something that will add to what humanity needs. And whenever we have a problem of this nature, there are many things that can be done. I have one of my patients who incidentally had breast cancer, and poor girl, she never had any caregiver. She traveled alone to do her chemotherapy, and after we did surgery for her, she traveled alone to chemotherapy because the husband has to take care of the kids at home. And she traveled alone for radiotherapy, she traveled alone for follow-up in another country, outside the country, and she understands everything. I mean, probably more than an average doctor concerning that. All the medications, she knows which one is fake, she knows which hormones is supposed to be checked at what time. Even when she develops some little bit of swelling because of limb, she knows how to manage it. When she begins to tell me, I know I don't know what she knows. Because she has, the last time I told her, okay, go to National Hospital, ask the nurses whether they know any support group, breast cancer support group. She went to ask the doctors say they don't think there is. The nurses, some of them were asking her, what is support group? So she came back and I was telling her, so you start one. The knowledge you have, put it on paper. I asked her how many volumes of book can you write if you are going to write your experience. She said, to be too much. I said, write it down. Because you are going to help somebody, which means there are no breast cancer support groups. When somebody has breast cancer and wants to go and drink medicine and die, if there is somebody like you, she calls, you say, no, my own was stage 4. Yours is only stage 3. Mine was stage 4. That was 5 years ago. I'm still living. This is how you will do. This is how you will do. You know, she understands how to prevent infection. She understands what food to take when your hair is falling. Because she went through this alone. So I told her that every other person does not need to go through what you went through. Because you can help them. So same here. Whatever it is, whoever you are, whether you have a child that is affected or not, all of us are Nigerians, all of us are human beings. We can touch the lives of other people, either with our resources or whatever we can do in this value chain. But just know that you belong somewhere in the value chain, either from encouragement to care to development of new techniques to resources to everything. You belong somewhere. I'll ask that we find exactly where we belong and we submit ourselves to do exactly what God would love that we do and at the point that we belong. Thank you very much.
Join what is happening already, what the C.A.D.E.T Academy is doing through her Dewdrops, Community Centre for people with special needs. It's purely non-governmental. Part of the things is they've been able to discover that the care of a child, just like we heard, the AVM said, he said the care is quite enormous. Sometimes you can't take more than a particular number of people. He says except there is more resources, then we'll be able to do that. And I know because I've had to refer 1 or 2 people, to the C.A.D.E.T Academy. I know exactly how expensive those services could be to render. But with the Dewdrops Center, it would help pull funds to subsidize. This is what the Americans do for us. I was telling some people yesterday, I said to them that, do you know that since HIV and AIDS started in Nigeria, or since people have started HIV and AIDS treatment in Nigeria, the US government has been a major donor to it. And the person didn't know. It's because, and then, they just took away some part of the testing. They says, we're not going to test again. You need to put your local support. And then a lot of people are coming up with, different kinds of resistance because they can't pay for those tests. All right? I don't think we should wait for the Americans to come to us again in these things. The bottom line for this kind of forum is that we come together and we pull our support ourselves together and then create a form and a force and a support. You can actually do that. All details are here, and I'm sure Mrs. Yola and the team are also around to tell us exactly how we could help further. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate the insights you brought to this forum. Next, I'd like to also invite another medical practitioner. She's a pediatrician. All right, we heard from an obstetrician. All right, sorry, I'm trying to take you guys in. So right now we're going to be hearing from a pediatrician, who is based in Abuja. She's been helping children in the last 10 years. She right now is in the city of Abuja and she's doing her residency at the Karachi General Hospital in Abuja. I'd like you please to join me as we welcome and celebrate in this forum Dr. Yewande Way.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be in your presence this evening. I hope you can hear me from the back. Okay. I'm really privileged and I feel very honored to be here. And I would like to thank the organizers for this program. I think it's a very good one. Talking from the pediatrician's point of view, it's like a breath of fresh air. You know, I've worked with children for over 10 years. Seeing so many of them that you really don't have any idea what to do with them. In the beginning, all you just tell the parents is, okay, just try your best, see if you can beg the daycare center to take the child. Then sometimes you keep the child at home, or you know, you just keep telling them, but there's no way you can actually send the children to until people like Lola daycare and some other people started special centers. So really, it's a breath of fresh air for us. But now, today, the topic today, it's the people before me have spoken so very well, and I'm really happy that I have that kind of foundation to build on. And like this topic says, neurodiversity. So we're beginning to see these children as a variance of the normal children. Really, it's the way we're going right now. Let's see them as they're just a bit different from us. So they're a bit different. So we're going to make a little bit of room for them. They're a bit different. We're going to make a little space for them. We're going to make a little excuse. We're going to make give them a little bit of attention so that we can accommodate them. You know, I read a little story about a lady who was a doctor and had an autistic child, and she was like, until she had an autistic child, she didn't understand what the parents of autistic children were going through. You really can't see what they see until you are really in their shoes. And she said the turning point for her was studying her child and understanding that, okay, this is what this child needs at this time, this is what we do for this child. And that's why the people that can really push this movement of inclusiveness are the parents of the autistic children. They are the ones that understand these children and what they need. They are the ones that understand how we can include them. You know, they are the ones that understand what makes them throw a tantrum, what gets them upset, why they are quiet. They are the ones that have studied them. So you are the ones that will push this movement. Now for us, healthcare givers, we have our own role. And I'm also going to talk about that here. See, because we live in a country where policy making is a big problem. And I believe a lot of us here are in positions where we can influence policies in this country. You can influence every school in Nigeria to have a special teacher in every class or in every arm. If you find yourself in that position where you can decide, you can influence that decision to be made, that every public school has a special teacher. Because the idea is, yes, in school we want to have daycare centers, we want to have special schools, but there are some children that can go to the normal stream school. So what do we do with those children? When they throw a tantrum, when the teacher doesn't understand them, what happens? So that's where your special teacher comes in. But in a public school where maybe they have only one special teacher for the whole school, and each class is 50 students in a class, how does the teacher do anything? So policymakers can help us with that. Now we talk about housing. You know, we need to provide more schools. We need to actually build enough classrooms for the students to stay in. We need to have special places where the parents can have a breathing space. Where the children can go for a weekend so that parents can rest, you know, and just have some breath of fresh air, and somebody takes up the load from their neck. Sometimes you also need normal daycare centers like they have, where you can drop the children and go for your normal school, normal walk and everything, and come back and pick them. And also let's note that these children, they grow up adults. What do we have for them as adults? What happens? Our APN here is able to take care of his own child at home. There are millions of children in Nigeria and nobody can take care of them. In the beginning when I started practicing, and you tell the parents that your child has cerebral palsy, or your child has autism, or your child has any of the other, you know what they do? They'll tell you they've heard. The next time you see that woman, you don't see that child again. And you're like, what happened to the child? She says it's in the village. And I'm telling you, that child might not be in the village, but have been summarized. That's what they do. They send the children to the village, and the grandparents know what to do with the children. I'm serious. They know what to do with the children, and that's the end. You don't hear anything of the children. So nowadays, some parents have resources, they can take care of the children at home. Some don't. They can't even feed themselves. So that's when those of us that have those resources or have access to those resources, that's when we come in. That's when we come in. Like he said he sent some people into a center and knows how much it costs. It's expensive to take care of these children. It's expensive to send the teachers to school to learn these things. It takes a lot of money for them to learn it. So really, it's a cost-intensive program. I was reading something online and for the American government to take care of an autistic child is about $10,000 a year, compared to a normal child that's like $1,000 roughly a year. So do the mathematics. How many of us can afford to do that for every child? And then some families have 2, some 3, some 4. So what happens to those people? So really, what this program is all about today is to understand what autism is all about, to understand the ideas behind this condition. Yes, we're trying to make you understand that it's a bit different from, people are trying to look at it like, it's a bit different from normal children. Some have issues that they can't stand on their own. They need help. And that's the point where each of us have a role to play. Our doctor has said there's a gap. Where do you fit in the value chain? I think this is to motivate each and every one of us to decide today. For you to be here today, it's not a mistake. You have a role to play in these children's life. You have a role to play maybe in the ones that are adults. What do you plan to do about this information that you have? What are you going to do? How are we going to include these people? They are Nigerians. They have the same rights that you and I have. How are we going to include them in everything we do? There's this picture I saw online of 3 children on a seesaw. 2 on this side, 2 on this side, 3 on this side, 2 on this side. They were playing. And there was this special need child sitting on the floor. And they were like, that child is integrated. At least he was brought to play with them. But is he included? No. Then there's another picture. The child is sitting with them on the seesaw. They found a way of adjusting the child to be between 2 children so it doesn't fall off. And then all of them can play on the seesaw. That's including the child into special. Yes, all the children might not be able to get that, but quite a lot of them, close to 44% of them, have above average intelligence. Close to half of them have above average intelligence. Then there are some special ones, like I said, have special skills, fantastic skills, great musicians, great mathematicians, and great physicists. So how do we address those things? How do we get the best out of them? It's by you and I making a decision today that we'll do something. If you decide to volunteer, fine. If you decide to start your own place, the sky is so wide to take everyone with us. And then as parents, this thing that we said, this hiding thing is a big problem. Really, and let's be frank, it's easier said than done. It's until it hits you before you understand how it is. Until it hits you, you have a child that has even maybe something wrong with the hand. Maybe like F small C at birth, something happened to the hand and the hand is like this. In the beginning, you are shy. You don't know when people come here, like, what would they say when they see the baby's hand? They'll be asking questions. And then you go through all the phase and then you recover. But the question is, how long does it take you to recover? Have you done it? Have you missed the time you could have helped the child while you are trying to recover emotionally? So someone else might decide to take up that responsibility. How to help parents cope when they get the diagnosis. You understand? There's this HIV thing now. You remember how it started? It was difficult for anybody to come out and say HIV positive. Now in our clinics we have mothers, we have people, social workers. They're right there. Once they tell the parents, they're counseling them, they're encouraging them. This is what you have to do. It's not a dead sentence. You can still have kids that don't have HIV and this and that. That might be your own area. That you want to work in an autism clinic and you'll be there when they get the diagnosis to support the mothers so that they can access care as soon as possible. If they access care, it helps to reduce the effects of the disease or disorder. So basically from my own point of view, I'm not really into talking too much, but the whole idea of this meeting is to see what we can do to make a better life for these children who have special needs. Thank you very much.
Doctor. We appreciate your insights. So that we don't think we're just going to carry on taking one remark or the other. We're just going to have one more remark, then we'll have an open house. All right. You may need to project when you're speaking, because we'll have an open house. Possibly you may have listened to Dr. Telemo, and you've been wondering how can you where you actually are, or where would you fit in the value chain. There are things those are things you can discuss, or you also want to take a cue from what the AVM said, or what Dr. Diowande said. All of those things, we want to just look at those areas they spoke into, and then form some kind of perspective. All right. So, but I'm excited that to bring up the next speaker, and she would do a good job to usher us into the open discussions that we would be having, shortly after this. She's a mother of a child with autism, but I also like to let us know that special needs is beyond autism and all of that. There are about 13 other special need areas that special education deals with. All right, it will be also good for you to find out and get to know all of these things. And there are people who have been able to live well and do well in all of those areas. It will also be very good to do so. Our next speaker, and she's had a child with autism, and she's the founder of Efatha Center. Through her personal experience and study, she has become a strong advocate for children with autism, and she seeks to inspire families, to do the same. I'd like you with a warm welcome to welcome Mrs. Angela Ikumara.
Sons. One is, the first is 9, the second is 7, and the last is 5. The 5-year-old, my last son, is the one fighting autism. I don't like to use that word. Today I'm going to talk about autism as it relates to inclusion, neurodiversity, and then recovery, or cure, as some people want to call it. What is inclusion? I believe inclusion involves adapting your environment to suit these kids that have these special challenges. Inclusion in schools, for example, in early years school, if you say you want to take in special needs kids, you have to adapt to their peculiarities, because a lot of them have a lot of sensory issues. They don't like bright lights. To change your light to LED bulbs so that they're comfortable learning. You can ensure that the environment is calm and quiet for them to learn properly. Just do things so that they can adapt properly to the learning environment. So for schools that are mainstream schools that want to include children that have special needs, they'll have to tweak one or two things to ensure that this child is comfortable in the classroom. The child might need what we call shadow therapists for those schools that can afford to employ one. And that shadow therapist must be trained in special needs to work with the child while the normal or the class teacher is teaching. The shadow therapist sits with the child and then puts the child through one or two things. But for a child to get to that level, where he can be mainstreamed or included in a normal school, he has to have reached a certain level in his learning abilities. You can't take a child that has 1,000,001 sensory issues and just dump him into a mainstream school. No, he has to go through a normal a special needs school for a time until when he can adapt in a mainstream environment. And then that mainstream environment, you have to, for parents, I'm speaking as a parent myself, you have to ensure that that mainstream environment will be able to accommodate your child. I know of schools that put kids, the parents come, do you have a special needs center or do you have a special needs classroom? They say yes. Meanwhile, they do not have. They take the children and then they just keep them in the classroom and they are doing nothing from morning till night, and the parent just comes and picks the child up and feels, oh, my child is in a normal school. Yes, because some of them are afraid of stigma, some of them are afraid of their child being labeled. But I would always say it's better you deal with it now than wait for that to wait for that child to become an adult, where it will be so glaring that there's a problem. He's a child now, it might not even show so much. So for parents of children living with special needs, do all you can now and ensure that that child can function. Maybe you might need to start from a special needs school and then transit to a normal school afterwards, and then you take it from there. Neurodiversity. Well, I've been hearing it, I really didn't, understand what it was all about. So I read up on it. Yes, it just simply says everyone is neurodiverse. Everyone is neurodiverse. We call people neurotypical because we think they act normal, they act typical as they're expected to act. So when someone acts in a diverse way, the person is referred to as a neurodivergent. But I beg to differ because I believe everyone is different in the way he thinks, in the way he's wired. So now this issue of neurodiversity is, I think it's trying to imply that these kids everyone is different. So these kids should be allowed to be different, and they should be helped in every area, and their differentiation or their exceptionalism should actually be celebrated instead of condemned. It's a good thing, it's a good school of thought, but in the country we live in, as much as we want them to adapt, as much as we want them not to be stigmatized, these things are going to happen. We live in a society where some things will never, or even if they're going to be accepted, it's going to take a very long time for them to be accepted. So in all the talk of neurodiversity, neurodivergent and all that, we as parents, and I'm speaking from a parent's point of view, we still pray every day, every week for a cure to be found. Someday, one doctor or someone somewhere can just say, Angela, take this and give this boy, and then he'll be very okay. I will take it. You understand? All of the celebration of the exceptionalism, yes, he does some things very, very well. I still want him to be normal. I still want to look at my child and be able to talk to him, to communicate with him, to understand how it's doing him sometimes. Because most of them are non-verbal. I'm talking about autistic kids. Most of them are non-verbal. So sometimes I look at him and I told my husband the other day, he almost feels like I don't know him because we don't converse. There's power in spoken words or even gestures. We don't converse as we should. I know my other sons better because they can tell me when they're having a headache, they can tell me when they're hungry. He tries, he says when he wants to, but the conversation, the communication is limited. Because of that, I almost feel like I don't know him as I should. I know him, but not as I should. So anything that can be done, call it a cure, call it a recovery thing, whatever name you want to give it. If I see it and I know that it's going to help my son, I will take it. But meanwhile, before that cure can be found, we'll continue to do what we can do for these kids. We'll take them to the special needs school. If there are parents here that have children with challenges that have not put them somewhere where they can be helped, specially, well, I don't know what you're waiting for. Yes, I know it's a hard pill to swallow when you find out that your child is challenged, but you have to rise to the occasion. You come out of that denial stage and tell yourself, look, you have to stand up and help this child. You put that child in a special needs school. If you cannot afford one, I know Lola has an arrangement where kind of like they subsidize the fees. You can talk to her and then she will do that. There are lots of special needs schools. I run one as well in Abuja now. So I don't think any parent has any excuse these days. Hearing of parents that go to hide their kids and all that. You can only hide that kid for so long. One day he will come out, he will grow up. If you're putting him in a cage or in a room, he will break that door one day when he's strong enough and he will come out. So I believe as parents, we should do all we can now while we can. Early intervention is key for kids, for parents that have younger kids. Do it now that they are young. Do all you can now that they are young, so that when they are older, you know, you can, and the good thing is, for most of these kids, as you're doing what you're doing for them, taking them to the schools, intervening in any way you can, there are lots of things that, you know, you see progress, and then you're encouraged to do more. Celebrate every milestone, measure every milestone. Okay, you notice that the child used to do this before, and he's not doing it again, you know. He's becoming better. He used to maybe tippy-toe. My son used to tippy-toe a lot. He doesn't do that again. So many sensory issues. He used to be affected by lights, but he's not anymore. He's even the one who puts on lights now in the house. You know, so many things. You celebrate all of that, and then hope, and keep hoping. I still keep hoping that someday, some way, a cure will come for autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, dyslexia, whatever it is. I just wish there's something that can be done to just correct it. In all of the wishing, we will do what we can do as parents and as administrators of special needs. Every day in every way, their diets, as parents, you can put your child on that will actually improve their functioning. I'm sure most of us have heard of the GFCF SF diet, the gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free diet. Most of these kids they have numerous allergies, and then they found out that I think about 80% of kids on the spectrum, autism spectrum, are allergic to gluten. Some kids have actually like 80% recovered from going on that diet. So as parents, you read up, you make sure you're abreast with what's going on in the autism community, in the CP community, in wherever, whatever. Just read, find out, and then do all you can. Get the child in a special needs school. If, by God's grace, he transits from there, you put him in a regular school, get a shadow therapist if he needs one. Or if the school is going to provide one, fine, all well and good, but I don't think any of those schools will. You can get one, somebody to be with him, someone who is trained, so that as the teacher is teaching, the person can put him through. And then you find out that with time, the child becomes independent, can actually function on his own. And, well, you can consider that a miracle too, a cure. Because when that child begins to perform things independently, he can do things on his own, do things without any help, then that is recovery as far as I'm concerned. So I'm talking to you now as a parent and as an administrator. Do all you can now so that you enjoy that child later in life. You don't want an adult child, you don't want a 30-year-old man living with you, you know, because you didn't do all you could do when he was a child. You don't want a 30-year-old autistic child that could have been helped. It's even more painful when you find out later that you didn't do all you could do. That's the most painful one. Do all you can. Do all you can. And having done all, the Bible says stand, but do all you can first. Always ask yourself, am I doing all I can? Have I done all I can for this child? Because if you look at him tomorrow and you don't want to keep asking yourself, did I do everything I could have? Maybe if I had tried this, or maybe if I had tried that, he would have actually been much better than he is now. So keep abreast, do all you can, get the child educated, get the child in the right environment. Our society will always, for now, stigmatize, you know, certain kind of behaviors. So we always would, as parents and as administrators, try to help that child conform to what is expected of him as per behavior in the society. Yeah, we'll do all of that, but in all of that, in all of the doing, we still hope and pray and believe that one day a cure will be found for this thing called autism or any form of disability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mom. I'm sure with that we could set the ball rolling. I'm sure thoughts and questions and comments are running through the minds of every one of us. The floor is open right now, so if you want to speak, you just indicate, I'll get the mic to you, and then we listen to you.
inside, and it is bigger than her age.
Okay, I talked about gluten. Gluten is basically wheat. Anything that contains wheat. Spaghetti has wheat, Indomie has wheat, bread has wheat, it's made with wheat flour. So you can subsidize those for, if she likes bread, you can make bread out of rice flour. And then casein is dairy, milk, some butter, cheese, cheddar. So those things actually, they say they flare yeast in the system. Just one of those medical talks. But once you avoid gluten, I did that with my son, and once I started the diet on him, he wouldn't sleep. Before then, he wouldn't sleep through the night. He would wake up like 2-3 times a night screaming for no reason. Once I started that diet, within 1 week, he started sleeping through the night. He would wake up 6:37, which was very okay for me. Then soy. You know what soy is? So anything that has soy. So just avoid those three for starters, and then watch and see. Supplement. As you're avoiding it, always find something that you can. Always find something you can supplement it with, because you can't take it. Like my son loves bread. You can, if you hide the bread, the wheat bread, on inside the deep freezer, it's ready to open it and enter there and find it. You know? So find something else to supplement with. If you take this away, you bring something else for them. Yes.
Internally, how parents who don't have resources can do the same thing. I'm sure you've heard a lot about what generals are doing in Nigeria these days. So you probably think I have a lot of resources. Let me tell you the truth. If I had money, I wouldn't be doing this. Okay? I'd make somebody else to take care of my son and all that. But the fact that certain things don't go right, put you in. There are people in my situation who never got beyond maybe the rank of major or lieutenant colonel because they allowed their child's situation to weigh them down so much that it affected their job. I was fortunate in the sense that from day one, I'd say maybe as a child, I had interaction with people who had special needs, had classmates in school who had polio, had 1 or 2 blind kids, and so on. So, and they beat you in class. You understand? You see, once a disabled person beats you academically, you start expecting them. And thereafter, you don't see disability anymore. And so, by the time I had my son, I had had experiences. I've been abroad, I've seen disabled people doing wonderful things. So I wasn't really bothered about it. And so I talked about it, and my colleagues and my friends rallied around me throughout my career. I had friends who would travel, and when they're traveling, they want to know what they could buy for my son. If I tell you the number of wheelchairs that we have given away in the last maybe 18 years, you won't believe it. Because people just bring wheelchair, but it's not the right one for the boy, and so on. So it's not about having money. And even when I was going to go to India, I had people rally around. I was in India one day when the pastor mentioned, after he had the surgery, and the pastor mentioned it. And the next thing, one gentleman called him and said, asked for his number. He called me in India, and he asked for my account number, and he paid about $5,000 into my account. You understand? So it's not a question of having money. And in the hospital where we're in, we spent 5 months with this boy in the hospital. Luckily I was retired, so I could afford to chill for 5 months, okay? But that's how long it took to get the hospital to even agree to the surgery, because he was non-verbal. They do that kind of surgery all over the place, but not for children who can't speak. And so it took a lot of effort to get to the hospital. It took a lot of persuasion and convincing before they finally agreed to do it. But in that period, I saw Nigerians. In fact, what the hospital used to do is like, once you say something, they will send money from home. The hospital assumes that there's so much money in Nigeria. Because the bulk of the people, kidney transplant patients and all who are in that hospital, some of them, believe me, could not afford a plane ticket from Nigeria. They were sponsored by churches, by individuals. I had one young man who had very bad burns on his face and his hands. His fingers were together, his hand was stuck this way when he came to India. And one gentleman paid almost about 14 million naira. He was there with his brother. I left them there. I met them there. I left them there. And they spent almost 18 months, but they finally came back. Because they were doing the surgery. When they do a surgery, after about, he will go out of the hospital. After about 3 months, when he's strong, he'll come back again. They'll do another surgery. And this boy he just had one small shop selling shoes when he had the accident. And then his junior brother was not working. And this gentleman sponsored the whole thing. So basically what I'm saying is that churches, organizations, banks, all kinds of people sponsor people. You just have to let people, you all have a kind of foundation. And what kind of a number of children Kano has sent out for heart surgery. So it's about letting people, telling your story, not being shy about what's happening. Your place of worship, let people know. Your place of work, let people know. Even your friends, you understand? And then you will get help. God sends help to you. Like I said, you have a special child. So when you send the child, he didn't send a check with the child. But he has a plan. It's about you stepping out. It's about you sharing your story. And it's about you being willing to ask for help. There are lots of women who are stuck in their home because they won't tell their neighbor about their child, or they won't let them. But you know, there's stigma in this country, there's fear. Okay, we watch Nollywood movies. It's all about evil spirits. It's all about somebody sent somebody and all that. But you see, if you come to school, everybody here has gone to school. We understand English. We can read the Bible. We can read the Quran. The message is clear. Okay? And nobody can do anything to you. It's all in the mind. I want you to understand that, to believe that. Science will tell you it is all in the mind. When something goes wrong, all these things we're talking about, whether it's autism, Down syndrome, the cerebral palsy, there is some hormone imbalance. Maybe an extra chromosome in the case of Down syndrome that just makes that child different. And that's what that has happened. And it is our refusal to understand these medical issues that makes certain people get us to believe in all kinds of other things. But the more that's why I tell people, I tell everybody I talk to, get knowledge, get understanding. Knowledge is power. The minute you have knowledge, nobody can hoodwink you. Nobody can deceive you about any thing. But if you don't have knowledge, they'll tell you about that woman in the village. They'll tell you about that woman. I mean, you see, if we think clearly, we all have somebody who we think doesn't like us. If we think clearly, really. And once somebody tells you that is that woman, one of the most dangerous things you can do to tell somebody that I'll deal with it. It's just a statement. But if anything happens to that person and there's a witness, you are in trouble because you have threatened that individual. So let's get this thing clear, okay? That if you don't understand anything, ask questions, get knowledge.
My question is, aside from the phone, how dangerous is the occupation for a 21-year-old or anyone older than, because of fun, there's been a delay in taking her to India, and she really wants to go. There's this whole 50-50 chance of survival. So, I mean, what?
Scoliosis is a twisting of the spinal cord. An acute form is hunchback, but you will see some people with a slight S on their back, and some are so slight that, okay, once I got used to it, I see it around now. There are lots of people with scoliosis, mild ones, but the real bad one, yeah, it can be uncomfortable. The rule really is that for girls, it should be up to the age of like 13, 14, and for boys up to the age of 12. That is what is recommended. Because the body around that time, because the body is growing, they won't do it before maybe 8 or 9, but maximum 11, 12, and then except 14. What they do is that, you know, the spinal cord is like my hand here, and they actually open up the back from the neck down, and then they put, you know, they put the body like on a jig, so that, you know, the person is unconscious. They straighten the body, and then they now put alternative screws. The screws have a little hole at the top like this, and they screw both sides of each spinal cord. So in my son's case, he has 36 screws. And then they now thread this titanium rods inside and lock it. So now they've straightened the body. And really, for a verbal person, or a verbal child, it's just a 3-week stay in the hospital. Thereafter, I mean, the child can go home. And I've seen some of the children, in fact, it was one of the children that did this, and that the mother gave us the doctor's contact, and we were able to now get to him, because they would do some x-rays, they would do some things before they agree to do this. For much advanced people, it can be more complicated, because the body is really firm and so many things are set in its ways.
She lives with it for...
It's not, there's nothing like threatening in it.
She usually sleeps on the wall. All body cracks, she doesn't walk in her body pains.
You see, to be honest, yeah, we all have problems. Do you understand? It's just to learn to live with that issue. The fact that she has come out of her low self-esteem is fantastic. Okay? And everything else falls into place. Some of the most powerful people in this country, in this world, not this country, are small people. You understand? You know, they're small people. They're fighting from day one, and they continue to rise up. You know, I'll tell you, if you see macho men, all those guys who are, God due respect, I don't know if but if you see guys who are, you know, who go to the gym all day, they are six-packs, and then all the muscles are bulging. They didn't got this body that. So who? A little wimp like Michael Jackson or something who never had time to go to the gym. So you see, we're so worried about the physical appearance. That's what I'm saying. If you look into the eye of a person, the minute you look into the eye of a person, you forget about their physical appearance. You see the beauty of God in that. Remember, God said He created each of us in His image.
My name is C.A.D.E.T Samuel. I'm a consultant women's health practitioner. We've had a fantastic time where we've had to share our views, and we've listened to views. And really, it's good to hear what other people have to say about moving forward and accepting autism, or accepting cerebral palsy, or accepting a child that has a disability that sometimes stigma from society or our environment will make us feel ashamed about. But I know that just to start here, that we're going to have more of these forums where we're going to be able to come back and say, look, you know, we're on our way to making you more aware that yes, your child might have CP, cerebral palsy, but you know what, there's a support group, there's the stakeholders. We need more support, we need more financial support, we need more know-how, we need more education. And today, I think we've been educated in different areas. We've had doctors in the house, we've had psychologists in the house, you know, we've had parents in the house who have children with disabilities, autism, and also CP, and hearing their story has made us feel their pain in getting their voices heard. So today we're not going to talk about getting our voices heard, but we are advocating as a child, you know, and we want their voices to be heard. We want people with disabilities for their voices to be heard so the change can start.
Identifying and working with children with any kind of special needs. I've lived in an environment that they push wheelchairs by you. You are compelled right? That if you have a heart of empathy, and if you know the person beside you is still breathing, to acknowledge. Okay, if you can't stand a normal child screaming, then you're not going to be able to stand a disabled child screaming. And that's just the way it is. And eyes, I think for mom, your eye contact with your son is more important than anything else around you. I remember I was at university doing another degree, and I was a home carer because I had younger children. And for me, it was perfect. I would go in, make my cup of tea for my old ladies, and go about my business. And then one day I got called that somebody wanted me to go look after a child that had Huntington's disease. Now she'd been told she was going to die. And it's a neurodeficiency where the limbs just go mad and they just keep moving up and down. And she was 13 years old. I went to do a cover, and the cover was just for 24 hours while they tried to find somebody else who was more specialized than me who could go in and work with her. When I walked in and I worked with her, it was my first waking night. I had no sleep. All I saw was limbs going pa, pa, pa. And I could imagine this mother with 4 other children, and she's had her daughter at the age of 14, and her limbs are going up and down 24/7. Now, for the first night in 14 years, the mother slept. I don't know what I did. I didn't know what I was doing. But I had the child on my lap. I took her off the bed. When I realized she was hitting the wall, I said, well, it's not going to happen like this all night. So I took the mattress off and I put it on the floor. And I put her on the floor and I sat down next to her. And I can sing and I can worship. And as far as I was concerned, I put her head down, and every time the limb went like this, I massaged it. And I found myself massaging till morning. But she slept and the mom slept. Diazepam did work, Valium did work. I don't know what I did, but it worked. Now within 3 months of working with him, one day I walked into the house and she said, he stood by the door. He had said the color red. He had identified boss, and he knew my Christian name, which is Patricia. He said Pat. That's 3-letter words. He knew exactly 4 o'clock I was going to knock on the door, and I was going to take him out into my car, and I was going to talk to him all through the session. And I had a session with him every evening for 2 hours. He knew the routine and he was rewarding. And quite frankly, when I first started with him, he wasn't speaking to me. He didn't speak to me, but I spoke to him. Because I believed as long as they didn't diagnose him deaf, he could hear me. And when he was comfortable enough to trust me, he spoke. Now that's one angle. 2, we said something earlier on. I think the people that need to be in this forum are so much the government. Because as a government, as a hospital, you back up what you have. If the government haven't started doing it yet, then you use that to table it at your meetings. To say we need this. Because I've also been a witness to an injury. CP is actually a hospital injury. It is an injury that is mainly because of malpractice. And it's an injury out of this country that is the most highest paid injury. That a parent doesn't need to fork out a dime for the care of a child with CP. There are children in the UK of 29, 30 years old and so on who have CP and their parents don't pay a dime. It is a birth injury, but here it's not so. And everything here, every step, and I think that's what they're saying, sir, every step here is where's your money? Because unless I have the heart of empathy to help you as a practitioner, the first blockage is cash. And it doesn't get cheaper, it gets more and more expensive. Any child with a disability in this town, they make you feel like you're carrying a cross. Hence the reasons why, if they have the opportunity to take the child and put him in the village, they're going to opt for it. Not because they want to, but because they've been forced to. Not so long ago, I was in Maitama, I walked in, and not one baby, not 2, not 3, 4 had CP, and they were all malnourished. Now I kept contact with them, and one took her baby away. She sent me a text message 4 weeks ago. She said my daughter died. And one of the biggest problems we have here as Nigerians is that we don't accept, we deny too much. And it's either Allah, and I'm going to say everywhere I go, it's either Allah or Jesus or God. he's taken control of it. Yes, he is. But medicine is also saying this is a diagnosis. And the reasons our delay in intervention is because our delay in acceptance that there is a condition. I correct my language. I work with somebody that was diagnosed with diabetes. It took her to lose her baby at 29 weeks and nearly her life. I bumped into her in a forum like this. Her baby's 3 years old today. I worked with her for 1.5 years to manage the diabetes. And I remember she saying to me, it's not my diabetes, it is the diabetes. So I corrected my language and I said it is the diabetes. But I got her sugar level down to safety level before she could conceive again. Not a lot of practitioners have the time to do that. So we need to find a way, quite frankly, how to get this into the system. Because I think this talk should be how we get it into the system. We've identified it. And I want to see that this forum, this time next year, has come up with a program to say we started a pilot with the government and we've implemented it here. Because why? Some of us can afford that care, but most of us can't. And it's the majority that counts for the minorities, not the minority that count for the majority. And so how we help our centers, Lola Center, yes, it's small, but mighty, is making an impact. It could be bigger. And I think what we're saying is how do we make a bigger impact in the centers that are there already? Let's make them larger. If we can make them bigger and more efficient, we can put our finances in there. Sensory, nobody even mentioned, you didn't mention it. Sensory is so special. The lights, the special lights you need in a center cost an arm and a leg. I don't know how else to put it. You need a mortgage, a teddy bear, a toy, learning apparatus. If you go into a place that's trying to achieve goals with special ed and they don't have the appropriate equipment, it's because it costs so much money. So the same amount of money to own your LV bag or your Gucci bag, it will buy a sensory toy. I'm for real. I'm one of those, how do we move on to the next level? A lot of us have it, it's stigma. It's not stigma. It's not, that's my child. How do we merge this into the government schools? Because once it gets into the government schools, what will look like at the other end is not there. Private schools can do it. They can afford it. Why? Because the parents can afford to pay. It's normally 120 a month, 150 a month, some 190 a month, some 270 a month, depending on the category of your child. And on an ideal, what can we do to get this into the government hospitals? And that's how they're going to remember us and empower us to move on to the next level. Thank you for listening.
I'd like to say that my belief for the future when it comes to the stakeholders and the ideal forum for disability in Nigeria as a whole, should I say, because I don't want to say that we're just advocating for us or our small group in Abuja. We're speaking for the whole of Nigeria, wherever it may be, wherever you are as a parent, or even an organization that's struggling to get your voice heard when it comes to disability, when it comes to autism, so that we can actually gain enough awareness, gain enough funds to actually implement a change. So for me, I believe that this time next year, we've made a change. We started a pilot, and we're starting to have the impact in schools, in offices, that disability is accepted. It shouldn't be frowned on. You shouldn't be made to feel as if to say your child is not complete. It's not the right child, because God gives us all good things. And so for me, I want to see that change. I believe there is a change in the making. It's a change that we started, and the process is in the system. And I know this time when we do our next forum, it could be in October, we will have positive things to say, and we'll see more people here. Thank you.
I think one of the ways forward is more people come on to these chat forums. You know, we're going to continue this. online. It's not just a discussion. Today was wowing, and I think nobody should miss this opportunity. People should come on board and learn and know what autism is about, cerebral palsy is about, special education, the different kinds and types. It's like for we in Blazing Heart, we preach different ability, not disability. So I think we should come together and see the different abilities that these children have, that they are unique and special gifts to us, and they can really make a difference in our society. Way forward, keep speaking, keep talking wherever you are. Let people know. Our children, teach them. Don't let them see a child who looks different and they treat the child different. No, let them see that every child is special. That's the way a parent tell your child. It starts with the siblings. Let them relate with their brothers or sisters who are differently abled, and include them, love them, accept them, embrace them. The same thing in our schools, the same thing our teachers. When teachers teach, they shouldn't see the weakness, but see the strength in that child.
One of the things we've also identified is the idea that if we can bring parents together to share ideas, it would help them. There's nothing more encouraging to know that you're not alone. And that's why the family support program that they've started here is a fantastic idea. I'm impressed with the large number that turned out. I'm impressed by the fact that we had quite a number of men turn up, because in most cases you find that men will just walk away or just leave their wives alone to manage these issues. I'm also encouraged that even the interaction today pointed to the fact that everybody wants to have more of these things happening. The thing is to figure out how to sustain it and grow it, and then hopefully build up into something that will be able to engage government, because to see the change that we're looking for, we must get government and private sector involved into funding, into supporting bodies like the C.A.D.E.T Academy, and then also sponsoring or subsidizing, whether it's education, medication, or therapy for the children that are there. There's also need to support the parents in terms of respite care, in terms of subsidy for the bills which they're incurring. And if parents and if government and private sector employers do not understand what their staff or their citizens are going through, it will not happen. So I believe that this will grow, and we will continue to collaborate with C.A.D.E.T Academy, and I see the future for disability and disability management in Nigeria really opening up very soon.
My name is Lola Aneke, and I'm the director of C.A.D.E.T Academy and also the Dewdrops Community Centre for Special Needs. I'm super excited about today because I would say our event was a success, because the first family support and stakeholders forum we had was sometimes last year, and then we took it a step further on the 2nd of April. We had another one, and that was quite successful also, because we had parents coming from different spheres of life. We had different stakeholders. We had some doctors, we had social workers, we had parents, we had psychologists, we had pediatricians come on board, and were able to discuss what parents were going through, having children living with special needs, and how they can be supported in one way or the other. After the second parent forum, we decided to have a social media platform whereby people can support one another through the social media. They can have their inputs typed down on social media, and then we could exchange information as to how to help one another. And then we had today's family forum, which I believe was much more better than the first one we had. And then we all decided that we need to bring more people on board, and we need to not just have it for special needs parents alone, or the people living with disability. We want everybody on board, whether you have a child with special needs or not. How can we support, how can we bring this message home, and then we can have a more inclusive society. So I'm super excited, and I look forward to a greater program in the next future. The next one is going to be in October, definitely, but we'll communicate the dates to everyone, and we're super excited. We know that it's going to be very interesting. So at the moment we are gathering momentum, and we are hoping that in the nearest future we'll be able to empower people and also advocate and make the society a more inclusive one and reduce stigmatization of people living with disability.